Well,
Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We're with our special guest, Dr. Tom Tully, with another great episode of Ask the Vet. Welcome, Dr. Tully. I think
well,
you're a little
welcome
festive
to
today.
everybody on the webinar, and also you, Laura. It's October. It's Halloween coming up next week, so we have our festive. We have bats here. These are bats, not birds, but bats, but they fly. So anyway,
Nice. Have you ever treated a
looking
bat?
forward to another fantastic uh, webinar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and learning today, seeing what we can find out about the birds today.
There we go. Have you ever treated a bat?
No, the bats that actually come in, we're concerned with rabies.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big concern with bats, of course, and we have had over the years rabies cases that have come in, bats for one,
Yeah.
that have. We even had a squirrel one time that had rabies. Believe it or not. Yes,
Ooh,
we did. Mm-hmm.
wow. So can your bird, can a pet parrot get rabies if it was outside and a bat came by?
Birds are
I'm going on the
relatively.
Halloween thing.
That's a great question, but birds are relatively resistant to the virus. And you know, but they have titers to rabies, especially owls. Skunks are a common carrier of rabies, and great horned owls like to eat skunks. And so this is something that we're fortunate that birds aren't you know, a common carrier of the virus, but nonetheless, they have had titers, and especially like great horned owls. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Okay. Interesting. Just going to give people like an extra minute to log in. And a reminder, if you have a question for Dr. Tully, use the Q&A button. But I was I thought I would start our webinar with let me see if I can find this. I wanted to show you a video, and I want you to tell me, is this bird going to be okay? No, just kidding. You probably sorry. These are from I think on the web. Okay, can you see that? See that
yeah.
cockatiel? What did he
I,
do? Have you ever done that? What is that? What is that procedure?
what is that? What happened?
So it's like it looks like a plastic thing to me. At first I thought it was a spaghetti noodle, right?
Oh, okay, I see it
Or but I
now.
think it's a now watch. He just like, have you ever done something like that? Just kind of like out of the crop. It's like a young cockatiel, right?
Yeah, so what it appears is that somebody was hand feeding, possibly hand feeding the cockatiel, and the tube came off of the it came off of the syringe when they were hand feeding it or doing
Okay.
something with it. And
Yeah.
so what that person is doing is actually manipulating that tube to kind of line it up with the esophagus, and then as he's manipulating that tube, he feels it and he's kind of pushing it up toward the mouth to grab it.
Wow.
So have you know, have I ever done that in particular? No. One of the things is that you want to be careful if you've been hand feeding the bird, and you have food on the crop. If you're manipulating it, you're going to push food up into the mouth, and then what happens there is that the birds don't have an epiglottis to kind of close the trachea, and so
Mm.
they just have glottal folds that go back and forth like this. And but if you're holding them, they're struggling, right? They're moving around, they're breathing, and so if they're on their back and food gets into their mouth, then what happens is they aspirate. that
Yeah.
feed goes down into the trachea, and that's not good. That's not good at all. And so you want to be very careful with that. What that person did, that doctor, it appears that it waited until there was no food in the crop, and he was able to, or she was able to manipulate that and pull it out. Like I said, I've never done that. We don't we don't use plastic tubes on the smaller birds to either feed, or we use long, what they call gavage needles. Actually, Lafeber sells those to veterinarians, and they have a little ball on the end, so it goes down smoothly down the esophagus into the crop, and we can feed them. We can treat them medically with oral medications, and so that's what we use. The tubes, plastic tubes, those can easily kind of go off of if they're short in particular, they can go off the end of the syringe into the crop, and then you'll have to pull those out.
Wow. That hope.
Yeah. And so that is not uncommon if that's done. A lot of people will feed with the syringe, and the bird will have a feeding response, and then they don't have to use the tubes. But if you use a tube on that, there's two things that in particular that can happen. Is one, you just saw it there, and then number two, you can actually tear the crop, and then the food goes, and so you tear the tissue, and the food goes out of the esophagus into the under the skin, and so then that's not good either. But my one time I had my father brought a African gray, and he wasn't really experienced with birds, and he went to buy it, and the person sold it to him. It was not weaned, and so he was going to feed it with one of those tubes, and I said, I can't believe you did that. So I can't believe you sold you a bird that wasn't weaned. And I can do it. And I go like, I said, well, if you have any problems, don't call me, because you shouldn't have bought an unweaned bird, and you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, he had the tube go off the syringe, and the person he sold it to got the, he didn't call me, but the person got the tube out in a similar manner that you saw there. But that goes into the fact, if you're inexperienced hand feeding birds, there is no reason that you should buy an unweaned bird, or you shouldn't sell to somebody who's inexperienced. That's the lesson. That's the moral of that story right there.
Right there. All right. Well, okay. Now we know. So birds can be okay, but that was a little risky there to use that kind of syringe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For, like I said, for a number of reasons, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a question for you about an Amazon. They want to know, can Amazons breed up to 50 years old, and would their offspring, if they had, a chick, would it be healthy?
Well, we get back down into the average age of an Amazon, and like I said, that's generally 30 to 40 years old, the average lifespan. They can live longer, and as far as their reproductive status, that would be a possibility. I wouldn't rule it out. On that, it would be unlikely but I think that there would be a possibility. We've seen a number of birds that are of older age, especially female birds that have laid eggs for into long to the older age. And so if you had an Amazon that was close to 50 years old, then there would be a possibility of that occurring. It would be rare, but there's been, I don't know what the oldest age of a human that has had a baby, but there, I'm sure that it's older than what most people probably would be surprised at the age. Say, oh gosh, I wouldn't have thought that. So yeah, it would be possible. As far as the success of that, it probably would be less robust than you would have if you had a bird in optimal breeding age, that you would say.
Okay. And then next question is okay, so can covering your bird's cage can cause night frights? Is it about them not being able to see? Is that correct? So what's your thoughts on covering the cage? Does it help them sleep, or can it induce night frights?
Well, I think the night fright is can occur when it's dark. The cage doesn't have to be covered necessarily. Covering the cage, if it increases the depth of darkness, if you will, I mean, you get to a point where it's pitch black, right? I mean, so in relative, and also it's not necessarily night fright when it's pitch black. It's like your room may not be pitch black, but if all of a sudden there was something that happened in that room that you were not expecting, and it woke you up out of a deep sleep, you would have night fright. If somebody came in with something like this and was looking over
came in the room with that hat on,
you would have night fright. And so it's the same with the bird. They're perching, and then all of a sudden, something scares. They don't know where they are, what have you, and then they're flailing about in the cage. And that was something when there was some earthquakes and stuff in California, and the birds in the middle of the night. Well, it could be some light, but it's still going to take them a while to get the sense of where they are and what do I, what is it? Where am I, and what is it? And so it's just it's just getting conscious, and how long it takes them before they settle down with that. So covering the cage could make it a little darker, but and somebody said, well, you put a night light or something like that. Well, what that does is that enables the animal to get a grip on where they are and what the surrounding is out of a deep sleep. And so covering the cage may take them off. They may flail a little bit longer if it's darker in there. But if covering the cage, if you have a tendency to stay up later, the birds in the room. I know of birds that have asked to have the cage covered, or have done different things like, okay, now it's time to go to sleep. I should have been, I wanted to go to bed 3 hours ago, but I know of people that have said, oh, they know when they want their cage covered. And so, so that's it's not a bad thing, but as far as night fright, that's definitely something. It's a great question. As usual, we haven't really discussed it, but it is something that occurs, and and birds can hurt themselves with that, and so if you want to have it's not going to prevent the initial incident and the bird trying to get its bearings of the environment and where it is out of a deep sleep, but a night light may help it get there quicker, on that.
Yeah. Or maybe would you partially cover the cage to kind of?
Well, you could do that. And if that does bring a little bit of light into the area.
I always think of cockatiels with night frights. It seems like you always have cockatiels and night frights, because my knowledge.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while I'll hear my budgies, in the middle of the night, just a ghost or something goes through the house and kind of gets them, in the Halloween spirit here, Laura.
Yeah. Or if you're keeping them in a flight. Yeah, that's right. That's part of the scary.
And I hear them, like in the cage,
Yeah. Or if you have like multiple, like if you have like a flight cage, if one goes frighting, I'm sure everyone's like, oh, what's going on? So you've got like a mass hysteria.
That's right. Yeah, birds, though, for the most part, birds have an idea, early bird gets the worm, but the early bird is the one that goes to bed early, right? Early to bed, early to rise, but that's for the most part, when the sun goes down, they're ready to go. I'll give my bird a treat, but if I get home late or what have you, and my bird tells me in the morning it wants to treat, and it tells me in the afternoon it wants to treat, right? It won't let me be until I do my duty. But they'll let you know. But if I come in late, then and I say, I did give you your treat this afternoon or whatever. It doesn't want it. It's like, leave me alone. It's dark, especially if with the light, getting darker earlier. Leave me alone. You missed the boat. I don't want it now, and not gonna take it, So yeah, that's and it's important. It's important to give them for behavior issues, as far as giving them getting their sleep.
Yes. Okay.
And downtime.
There you go. Just like people,
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So question about African gray, Timna specifically. Do you know what they want to know? The natural diet for them, and is it possible to replicate some of their native diet? Like, what resources do you have any suggested resources?
Well, as far as the exact natural diet of did you say Timna?
Yes.
African gray. I don't know what native plants that they eat, and I've not heard that there's something that is particular that they need as far as like I think it's like the pandanus or pandanus palm for palm nut for I believe, if fact check me on this, I believe it's possibly the black palm cockatoo may have that, or it's or the hyacinth. I can't, two different areas, but there was something that that's one of their major diets for that particular species, whichever it is. But as far as the natural diet of that's a great question. Unfortunately, we can't, for the most part, get the the natural or native species in bulk quantities to feed the birds. So we do the best we can, and as I've mentioned before, and this is a great question as far as nutrition is concerned. We haven't taken Timnas or Congos or or Ghanan or what have you, African grays, and said, okay, what's their natural diet and what's that concerned with? Their daily required nutritional values. Nobody's done that that I'm aware of in many of the bird species that we keep. So we really don't know what their daily nutritional requirements are, and so we do the best we can. And then there was a consortium of nutritionists that came together and had recommendations on that, and that was a couple of years ago, literally just 1 or 2 years ago, that had recommendations on what to feed us, cetacine species in general, and what to feed a passerine species in general. But yeah, I'm just not aware, and so we do the best we can with the information we have on other avian species that are somewhat omnivorous, omnivores, and for the most part they eat grain, and seeds and nature, and then fruit, and other things in nature, and what's ever coming into season at that time, or what have you. So and then all of that collectively makes up what their nutrition is. It's a great question, but it's very diverse, and it's dependent upon time of year in which what they're eating. It's not something that they're going to eat all the time. It's just like cherries are going to be prior to global transportation. Cherries are going to be in season in the summer, apples in the fall, citrus in the late winter, early spring. So you have the different things in nature. That's what they have to go with, and so it's hard to replicate that in the natural diet. So you do the best you can, and that again is why if you have a pelleted component to your diet as a major component, that it'll provide a variety of vitamins and minerals that are needed for the bird to be as healthy as it can over a period of time. And of course, the diversity in the diet kind of takes up, you have some seed, you have some nuts, what have you, and in the diet. Then what that does is that kind of one, psychologically helps the bird have a variety, and then also it you pick up different things, nutrients that may not be in that they need, that they may not be in the pellets that are commercially manufactured for that particular species. And then we had some issues in years with Congo African grays in particular. Congo African grays would have this seizure activity. And this seizure activity, they would say, well, it's due to a lack of calcium. Well, the one thing that what we found out is that we had a gray one time seizuring and give it anti-seizure medication and try to make a situation, kind of work with the owner to have a good diet for the bird. And it's not actually what you feed the bird that's important. It's important that you feed it a good diet. It's what the bird eats. So you can feed it a variety of things, but if the bird only eats one thing, well, that's not good in itself unless it's you know, a nutritionally you know impregnated pellet that has vitamins and minerals in it. Well, it only eats pellets. Well, then that's going to be good for the bird in the sense that it's going to have a at least somewhat of a balanced diet. But if you feed it a diverse diet and you feed it, oh, I feed it everything, including, you know, say you feed it fruit or, you know, vegetables or something like that or whatever, and it only eats one thing. Well, or you feed it a variety of seeds and nuts, you feed it, say, a hyacinth macaw, feed it all of this stuff, and I give it macadamia nuts. Okay. Hyacinth owners commonly give macadamia nuts. And the problem is if the bird's only eating macadamia nuts, and I don't blame them, I like macadamia nuts too, but if it only eats macadamia nuts, there's no vitamin B12 in there. So the bird becomes anemic, and then the bird will die. But we had this gray, and so what we found out was that, you know, the calcium levels didn't appear that low, but this bird had very low calcium levels, and we found out that the magnesium was important. And so that if you don't have magnesium, the bird's not going to get calcium, not absorbing calcium. And that is something that is that we found out. So hopefully that the grays, you know, are getting magnesium in their diet through their the commercial pellets, and we just don't see the grays with seizure activity as we once did. So when you're bringing up grays and what they normally eat, maybe grays needed a little bit more magnesium, and they get it in their natural diet that we weren't necessarily providing in the diets in that we are offering them. So good question. And
Right.
yeah.
Okay, nice. Next question is about a 5-month-old blue-fronted Amazon they've had for 2 weeks. So this Amazon is sneezing during the day, and one nostril looks a little bit irritated. No discharge though. They did a vet check last week and it was fine. So they've been trying to keep the dust down, but they want to know, should they take them back to the vet? Little baby, little young.
Well, anytime, you know, you have a situation like this, well, you have sneezing, and I think you mentioned that there may have been some nasal discharge in the
No discharge. They said there's no
discharge,
discharge.
just
Yeah,
some sneezing.
just sneezing and a little bit of irritation in one of the nostrils.
And irritation. Okay. Well, that definitely could be something within the environment that's causing some inflammation, and the inflammation is triggering the sneezing activity. The one thing that we always try to, and I always try to look at is, you know, looking at the bird from the outside. I can look at it and say, well, yeah, you know, this is what it is, and this is what I see, and this is what it could be. But and it's one of those things. Well, is it the beginning of some kind of a possible disease condition, kind of an upper respiratory infection? Is it, or is it just something in the air that's causing this inflammation that the bird would possibly just recover from over a period of time? Is it severe enough where it needs some anti-inflammatory medication to kind of reduce the inflammation and therefore reduce the sneezing activity of the bird, and kind of reduce the inflammation in that nostril, which would then reduce the sneezing activity. So what is it? You know, what are we dealing with? And like I said, I can look at the bird and then say, "Oh, there you go." But I need to see what's going on inside. I need to know what's going on inside. Is there something? Is this just the kind of the tip of the iceberg that is associated with another, something that is not showing itself right now to a great extent? And that's why we look at a complete blood count. And a complete blood count is is under the category of blood work. You hear, well, we're going to do blood work. Well, what's blood work? Well, there's that incorporates a number of tests that could be submitted with a blood sample, and a complete blood count will help determine if the bird is there may be inflammation going on that may be significant or less than significant. It may be normal, or what have you. And so that's something that we kind of look at. And so I'm not sure if that was done, but it's always good to see what's going on inside to help you correlate what's going on outside. And that's what usually physicians do when they do a health exam on a human, is that they look at you and they feel you and listen to your heart and all that. And then they send you with orders to go get blood work. And that blood work is what's going on inside to kind of correlate what they see on the outside. So, and it's no different when examining animals. I can tell you what's going on outside, but I need to see what's going on inside. So again, that's where I would look at here, because what you mentioned is a possibility, but and it may just go away. Doesn't sound like it's very severe, but definitely something to monitor.
Okay. All right. And then there's a question. Let's see. Concern with the plasma protein of a 2.7 and a CBC for an 8-year-old Linny, so lineated parakeet, when the report data lists 3 to 5.5 as the normal range. So it's on the low end of the scale there. You want to?
Well, the one thing is that it kind of looking at
total protein. That's probably, sorry.
Yeah, the total protein. The total protein is a parameter that they can measure in in a complete blood count, and they can also measure that in with a chemistry panel, which has enzymes and electrolytes, and electrolytes are like sodium and potassium and calcium and phosphorus, and so that's all in a chemistry panel, and so total protein can be in that. The concern was the low total protein. The total protein is broken up into albumin and globulins, and globulin factor is kind of associated many times with infectious processes that could cause that kind of to increase in value. Now this is a low, and so the one thing about this little parakeet is that before we get to that, just to say about the total protein in birds, that it kind of depends on how the total protein was measured, because you can read about total protein in birds that the measurements of total protein is somewhat difficult with the standard measures used in mammals. And so that would be one question on that. And so that's always something that we concern ourselves with. And then also, does that low total protein necessarily correspond to anything bad, any problems that the bird is having. Because and then you're looking at what factor is the total protein. Is it the albumin that's low? Or is it the globulins, or both of them low totally on that? There's kind of a little bit more complicated than just the low total protein. One that traditional methods of measuring total protein can give you a little bit of a variation in that. So if it's a little low, a little high, and the bird's doing fine, then I just usually put that into the category of the variable of the impreciseness of the total protein measurement in birds. So if the little bird is doing okay, and you and it's a little low, then I wouldn't be personally that concerned.
Okay.
Yeah,
Would
it's a
that
little complicated, on that a total protein. If we could say yes, every time we send in that total protein, it's correct, and this is, you can take that home, then, but it gives us a ballpark on that, and it usually corresponds, for the most part, if we have a bird that has some type of an illness or showing clinical signs, it usually gives us an assessment of what that bird's condition is based on that.
Okay. All right. So our next question is this is about a recipe. So I kind of this is a good one. So
they're all good, Laura.
They are really good. That this one, because I also make okay, so I just gave a preview of it. So here we go. I have a personal vested interest in this question because I kind of do the same thing. Okay,
okay.
So they say my two African greys have different appetites. One is only eating pellets, and the other eats everything, including vegetables, eggs, fruits, everything. Yeah. Both like pancakes, like it's crack, which is really funny. That's from the quote. The pancakes that they have are a Kodiak mix. That's a brand, I believe. With old-fashioned oats, pecans, egg, and some milk, cinnamon, vanilla. Are these pancakes bad for them? And by the way, they also put chopped broccoli in the pancakes. So they both eat Hagen Tropical Lifetime pellets. So are the pancakes on the?
Well, until the broccoli, I was all in.
I know, I would be having some of that too, except for the.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
bad?
are the pancakes okay? Because
I think that, I guess I'm one for happy birds, and in moderation, I think that they are okay, monitor the bird's weight and condition, and I mean, you don't want all you can eat pancakes, but and I would dare say that the owner's probably been doing this for quite some time. But it's a good question on that. But I do not think that it's going to like I said, in moderation, reduce the length of life for the birds. So if they enjoy it, and you're using good ingredients in there, then I don't see any issue. You may have somebody that's that would go, say, "What are you doing? I can't believe it." But I want my birds to be happy.
We're talking like dollar pancakes at the most, and like not like
I mean, that's nice. That's nice for somebody to do that for their birds, I think.
Just hold the syrup and whipped cream.
Yeah.
I like the broccoli ad.
And they go directly for the broccoli. I know. But no, I'm easy on that. I'm not, I just think it's good. So
Yeah. I imagine if it's like the only thing they're eating, like just pancakes.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what I said, in moderation. And so it's one of those things. Um, I mean, Reese's peanut butter cups. Michiko could tell you I could go through some Reese's peanut butter cups, but I need to do that in moderation, you know. But anyway, it's good.
Okay, great. And then someone wanted to know where to go. Okay, what are your recommendations for get fresh air and sunshine? We're talking about a Congo African gray who lives in a condo in a rainy city.
Oh, well, I mean, the one thing is that you can get a UVB light to for the if it's difficult to get the bird out. But for the most part, if it's not going to rain every day. Even in Seattle, I know I've been in Seattle when it's been beautiful. So they consider that a rainy season and a city, and I live in Louisiana, and well, we haven't had rain for a long time. So and believe it or not, Louisiana's in a drought. So um but no, that's one thing you could do for the bird, to have that over the cage. But if you're not getting it out, but to try to, if you can, to get it out when you can, even if you don't have that, is helpful. And if I mean, you could go months not having the bird out. But at the same time, I think both psychologically and physically, that when you can get it out, to try to do that, you know. And so that would be my recommendation. Always watch out and be, knowledgeable of predators that are out there that are looking for an opportunity. But nonetheless, if it's nice, and especially when it gets to a nice time, and that you can do it a little more often, kind of make up for lost times, on that.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, should an optimal diet be based on replicating the animal's diet in the wild, or an independent analysis of what is nutritionally required for the bird? So is there basically, is there any assumption that the wild diet equals the optimal diet?
Well, I would say just personally, off the top of my head,
Which is
the wild diet would be the optimal diet, right? That's just my humble opinion, simply because that wild diet is what has sustained that species over millennia, and has allowed that species to flourish within the wild, and so and they've adapted to whatever the change within that environment that has occurred over significant period of time. So that would be optimal. And so what you would look for is to try to replicate that diet as much as possible in the nutritional contents of what you're feeding it. And so you're not going to, have the exact things that they eat, but what you want are the nutritional building blocks that they ingest, that are incorporated in their natural diet. And I would say, Laura, that we're doing a pretty good job of that. Because the birds are living, they live longer on average, I think, and I would somebody can should try to do a study on this, but I would say that birds live longer in captivity in a good environment than they do in the wild. Okay. And it's not in the in nature is not a what would you want to call it? Nature is not an easy place to live. Okay. You get injured. Well, there's not a hospital, and you usually get eaten. And so it's not a an easy place. It's difficult. And so if you get old, you get slow. Well, it's like that story. How fast do you want to? How fast do you need to run to get away from a bear? Right?
Yeah.
Faster than the slowest person, right? And so that's kind of the way it is in nature with the birds. But as you age, you don't run as quick as you did when you were young. And so, of course, but again, I think that at this point, in a good setting, that the birds are living, as long as they can. So the diets that we are providing, and anybody that's been in bird, dealing with parrots for any period of time, and especially if you were doing that in the 80s, or before, and coming up, what we had back then to what we have now is just an amazing advancement. I mean, I don't know what you would say, Laura, but I mean, when most people were hand feeding formulas that were in a blender and heating them up in a microwave, and we had crop burns and all of this, and it was kind of prior to the nutritional aspect of pellets, either extruded or compressed pellets. The seed diets have improved significantly. So the advancements in avian nutrition are fantastic. And then that is what you as a bird owner, or me as a bird owner, that's what I'm just so thankful for. And it's allowing our birds to be healthier and live longer. And I'm seeing that with some of the diseases that I treated back in the 80s and early 90s. I rarely see these days.
But yeah, that's good advancements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, it was pretty much seed.
Yeah, I mean, and not as much thought into it, into the composition of that,
Okay, let's see. So we have here. Okay, so this is a male, 9-year-old male green cheek conure that has had like a belly. Regular blood work turns out fine. He's on a variety of, his diet is very, variety friendly. It's organic pellets, grains, fruits, and vegetables. Are fatty tumors common in green cheek conures? Should this be biopsy to confirm that it's benign? So it's got a bit of
so there's a little mass on the kind of the underside of the little green cheek conure, correct? Is that what I'm
he's got a little bit of a belly, is what they say. So yeah.
Well, I'm hearing kind of two things. One is a little bit of a belly, and then also something about a biopsy on.
Oh, they wanted to know if they should they get biopsied to confirm that it's just benign.
So, yeah, well, when I hear a little bit of a belly, that is like past the keel. You have the kind of between the keel and the coelom, you have the what I would call the belly of the bird. Okay, and so you can kind of compress that in, and if there's an egg and a hen, you can feel that in the belly, right? You can feel that egg. Now, if that area is distended, then that could be fluid on that. And so that could be fluid. Now, if there's a mass that could be under the skin that's kind of off to the side or what have you, and it's not the entire underside of the bird that's distended, then that's a different story. And so if there's a tissue mass, anytime there's a tissue mass where you see anything on that, I haven't see a lot of green cheek conures, good little birds, but I haven't I don't recall that they're a bird that is commonly gets fatty tumors. Say like Amazon parrots or something like that. You have a rose-breasted cockatoo or something where it's common to have these fatty tumors, even budgies. But it's possible. Now, the best thing that you could do with that, if you have a tissue mass, that is what we call, you don't necessarily have to biopsy it. You can get what we call a fine needle aspirate. And a fine needle aspirate is like taking a needle and then sucking up part of that, sticking that needle into that tissue mass and sucking it up into the needle, and then injecting that onto a slide, and then they take that sample, and then the clinical pathologist read what you've just sucked up in that tissue mass. And if it's a fatty tumor, then they should, be able to identify that quickly without even doing a surgical technique. And not all the time that these aspirates are diagnostic. Many times they aren't, but for fatty tumors, it's a good test to use to actually identify those. Most of the time they are diagnostic with fatty tumors, so that can be done. Now, if there's fluid on the in the body, now that's a different story. That's something we commonly see with backyard chickens that we have that are having difficulty laying eggs, or we call it internal ovulation, where they're ovulating into the body, and that causes fluid buildup, and so we have to drain the fluid off of the bird through that. But an aspirate should be able to, if it's a mass, identify if it's a fatty tumor or not. Yeah. Now, a lot of times with that aspirate, you submit the sample, and then the clinical pathologist says, it's non-diagnostic. We're going to need a biopsy. You're going to need to biopsy it to identify it. Well, then that's what you have to do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have a question. The next question is about, let's see. Okay. So says that they're usually away from my bird most of the day. They got obligations to do. And sometimes they knew that when they go out for a few hours, they put music or PBS Kids on. And unfortunately, occasionally they have to be away all day and can't find someone to spend time with their bird. Should they leave the TV on or just music if it's a long day alone for the bird? What do you recommend?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can. I mean, as far as that is concerned, it's whatever the bird is comfortable with, whatever it gets used to. And again, we all have things to do, and you know, and birds are just like people. We're creatures of habit, and so if you want to leave a radio on or a the TV on, then that's fine, especially channels where they're not going to possibly pick up words that you don't want them to say. You know, as I always said, expletives they'll pick up quickly because they're said with so much emotion. So that gets their attention. But also, if you don't leave anything on, that they listen. They're listening. There's things happening all the time while you're away. And so, you know, there's birds outside. There's, you know, so they're attentive. And so whatever you feel comfortable with, and it's you know, the bird is you feel it's good, then that's fine. You can, or you don't have to. And it's, you know, dependent upon you. Now the bird, if it's a vocal bird and it converses, and then leaving a radio on or TV, something like that, its vocabulary can expand. It has a possibility of expanding, and it's saying some things that you just, you know, aren't aware of, that it's picked up. But and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's just something that may surprise you. You know, there's a possibility of that.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, my little budgie guy, he likes to watch videos of other birds talking, and now he keeps saying, "Hey Siri," even though I don't have Siri. Little blue budgie, you know, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
horrible.
And his little budgie voice, right? Hey
Yeah, yeah,
Siri, his little budgie voice, right?
yes, yes. He learns a lot of words. He mimics. He picks up a lot of vocabulary from other talking budgie videos, like Disco. He's a big fan of Disco, the talking budgie parakeet from years ago. But so he says his name, but his name is never his name because he's saying his name is Disco. So he's all over the place. But yeah,
Disco the talking budgie. I'll
yeah,
have to remember that. I'll
he's
have
a big fan. Apparently, he's
yeah. So that's on what
on
where's
YouTube. Yeah, if you just Google YouTube, you'll have to. Yeah,
oh
but
you,
my budgies are really big screen time budgies. He learns everything. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to share that with my wife. You know,
very
she's a
cute.
big budgie fan. So
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so I have a question about feather plucking. All right, so we have a Timna who chews enough to remove feathers on one wrist. Not too bad, but would like to stop and reverse it, of course. Occasionally she plucks a few other feathers. Also, what are the molting seasons? She has not molted since they adopted her, which she's 28. Oh, they adopted her in May, so she hasn't molted that they've noticed, and she's 28 years old. So Gray is 28 years old. Does a little bit of plucking on the wrist. Wait, what was it? Yeah, and then hasn't molted.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as molting is concerned, the birds are constantly lose feathers. I would dare say, since you had the bird, that you haven't had a feather on the bottom of the cage. I would anticipate that you have had feathers on the bottom of the cage. These birds aren't going to molt you know, a significant number of feathers over a course of time, where you're going to actually see bare areas of skin. Now, what I've seen over time, and especially with my birds, is that that usually you're going to have this kind of a significant feather loss, usually in the spring, and then and possibly about this time of year going into winter, you'll have possibly a number of feathers. But in particular, spring, early summer, I seem to have more feathers than normal, and you may have a few long feathers on the bottom of the cage. You have that. You may have a lot more of the smaller feathers, but that's when I normally see more feathers. But they will molt or have feather loss that's not associated with any abnormal problem all throughout the year. Okay. And they groom all the time. As you know, birds are grooming and keeping those feathers smooth on that. Now, as far as the kind of a unusual area that you mentioned, where this gray is picking the wrist area, the one thing that kind of, and I don't know if it started before you got the bird or after you had the bird, but sometimes it's one of the issues where if it was before you had the bird, well, that it's going to possibly, you've had it since May. If there's no damage, you may see it regrow. If you have it by May, that's, usually if it pluck a feather, it's going to be about 6 to 8 weeks. It'll regrow. So it should have regrown by now. And so if it's on one wing and in one area, it may be associated with something in particular that would be needed to maybe looked at to see why it's picking at that particular area, because that's not typically an area that we see where a bird will focus on to initiate feather picking through a behavior. It can definitely generate to involve that area, but it's not usually an area that we see where, boom, that's where they start feather picking. So, pulling feathers out or traumatizing feather destructive behavior, if you will, is something that can be behavioral, but it also can be associated with something irritating the bird at that site. So, if there's an ingrown feather, it'll pull feathers out around it. If there's a little tumor, it'll pull feathers. If there's a wound in that area that's not healing or for whatever reason, it'll pull feathers out around that area because it's bothersome. It's bothering the bird. So it would be good to make sure that that there's nothing there that needs to be treated that can resolve it, and then try to assess it from that point on. Is it in fact behavioral or not? Yeah.
Okay. Guess what? we're out of our time. Shoot, that went by quick. That was a important question. And always, the feather plucking is always a frustrating thing. So I'm glad that we were able to touch upon that today too.
Yeah. Very good. And extra questions, and I can't believe that it's over as usual. I mean, it was a great group of questions for a Halloween, for a late October day afternoon. Weekend's coming up, so I wish all of our webinar attendees a great weekend. That's right. And and don't freak your birds out if you're wearing a costume. You got like a skull hat on. That's right. Yeah, 5 fingers. Yes. Walk into surgery with that today. That's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So I have to announce today's winner of our giveaway because we do have giveaway every webinar. And today's winner of our giveaway is Irma Hess. Congratulations.
All right, Irma.
We're doing a
Halloween trick or treat.
yes, that's right. So I believe we're giving the senior bird nurture berries away this month, as well as another Lafeber product of your bird's choice. So there you go. Nice way to start the weekend. And I was going to show you guys. So Lafeber is doing just because it's time sensitive. Let me see if I could do a quick screen share of the Halloween bundle. There you go, Halloween bundle. I think it's available until like midnight on Halloween. So that's the bundle pack that they're offering for. So if you're gonna watch a movie with your bird, there's some popcorn Nutriberries. Feel good about that, as well as the foraging fun pack, and then of course the flying off the shelf at the Lafeber company, the banana Nutriberries, which is the limited edition and for a limited time only. So there you go. So if you're interested, check out lafeber.com under their shopping page, and you can find this fabulous bundle that's available till Halloween. So
Fantastic.
There's tricks for your bird right there.
Yes, to put in but make sure do not give it to your birds unless they say trick or treat.
Oh gosh, yeah. Some birds can, so there you go. Let's see if
That's right.
Bird, raise your hand if your bird can say trick or treat. That would be.
That's it.
Oh my gosh, that would be adorable. There we go. Oh, someone raised their hand. Their bird can say trick or treat. Wow. That's amazing. So I was just in a sneak peek at what's coming up. So November 3rd, we're going to be on with, that's a Friday, of course, since that's with Dr. Lamb. She's going to cover the truth about toxins. So that's going to, about medicines, vitamins, supplements, what's safe amounts and what's not, and all that good stuff. So into that. And then we'll be back with you, I believe, November 17th. So
get your questions.
Get your questions in order, and then let's see if we can get a stump the vet question, one that you.
Yes, well, I mean, yes, I want to stump the vet question so that I can learn.
That's right, and you always do get back to us when you
all the time.
Yeah. And it keeps you up at night, so you have the answer. I know that. So there we go.
Yes, we'll get the answer. Yeah, very much so.
All right, guys. On that note, yes, we'll have to say
goodbye.
All
right, bye. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend and Halloween.
Yes, happy safe Halloween, everybody, and all the best to you and your flock. Stay safe. Stay safe. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.